So I rewatched Sex and the City season 4 and it was a pretty cathartic experience. I think the last time I cried that hard was when I watched the season 1 finale of Mad Men. Seriously, that Kodak speech ripped my heart into tiny pieces. However, season 4 of Sex and the City is equally weepy as it deals with heavy topics like the death of a parent, cancer, fertility issues, pregnancy, and a broken engagement. This is also the season where the most heartwarming moments are actually between the ladies, and we truly get the sense that these women are each other's soulmates, and it's simply beautiful to watch. This is why I've decided to split this video into 2 parts. Today we will be discussing only Carrie's season 4 journey, and I'm leaving Miranda, Samantha, and Charlotte for part 2. Otherwise this video would be like an hour long since this season tracks through so much story, so I hope that's okay. I also have the flu right now, therefore I am very sorry for my nasal voice, but it also means that I have more time to watch TV shows and talk about them here. So, without a further ado, let's get into the video. Let's start discussing Carrie's arc with the scene when she sees Aidan for the first time after their big breakup in the previous season. So, it's the opening night of Steve's bar. Carrie goes out for a smoke and a cake, and I am sorry, but who eats and smokes at the same time? It's kinda gross. But, surprise, surprise, Carrie bumps into Aidan. Now, he takes a bite of her cake and they have this weird conversation about the cake, but are they really talking about the cake, or maybe it's about them? Then he feeds her cake, she licks the frosting off her lips, and you can just tell it was supposed to be this heavily sexually charged scene, but it looks like a TV adaptation of a fanfiction a 14-year-old wrote on Wattpad. And then in the next episode, Carrie tells the girls she wants to get back with Aidan. According to Carrie, it's not because he had a glow up. We see him in a new haircut and apparently he became more muscular, although I couldn't tell the difference. But no, Carrie wants Aidan back because she's supposedly been missing him for months. Sure, why not? That sounds like a good reason, I suppose. If only we saw one scene of Carrie missing Aidan instead of having mind-blowing sex with Ray, the jazz guy, or walking the runway in the bedazzled Dolce & Gabbana panties, I would believe that. So, what are we thinking? Is this yet another example of bad writing on the writer's side? Or is Carrie lying to us and probably even to herself? But speaking about Aidan, recently I stumbled upon this Screen Rant article which ranks SATC characters based on their wealth, and according to this journalist, on top of the pyramid, going 3 for free, once again, is Mr. Big, whereas Steve and Aidan are considered the poorest characters. I totally agree that Steve is far from being the richest man on the show. He's a bartender, he doesn't have a trust fund, and so when he finally opens his bar Scout, Steve needs a silent partner. Aidan, who happens to be the owner of this pretty rough-looking countryside cabin, but that would also mean he owns a piece of land. Relatable, cries a millennial. Aidan has enough disposable income for grand gestures like buying Carrie a new laptop after her old one crashed. And not just any laptop, but the Apple Clamshell iBook. You guys, when I was 13, this laptop was the bane of my existence and the object of all my desires. All cool kids had it. Rory from Gilmore Girls, Elle Woods, Violet from Coyote Ugly, the list goes on and on. Even Charlotte has one in her gallery, and so the fact that Carrie didn't like this laptop as a gift, makes my inner child slightly sad. And lastly, Aidan buys not 1, but 2 apartments in New York with cash. For me, that's a very wealthy person, but we don't see him as such simply because of the clothes he wears. I am 100% sure that if in every scene Aidan would wear a Giorgio Armani suit instead of his denim workwear and those hideous linen shirts, we would have a very different opinion about his financial situation. And it's so well juxtaposed with his girlfriend Carrie, who has a massive closet filled with designer clothes she only wears once. And when at the end of the season it's revealed that she only has $900 in her savings account, it comes as a shock. How come? This girl owns 6 different Dior saddlebags, like surely she must be rich, right? Sorry for this minor tangent, but I find fashion psychology fascinating. I remember reading about Anna Delvey, the fake German heiress, and that contrary to what we saw in her Netflix biopic, her clothes weren't that expensive actually, and it was exactly what made people think she was a multi-billionaire. People in her life thought that she was so rich and powerful, she no longer needed to care about presenting as such. Clearly, for me, this is a very interesting topic. And I have to finally watch Succession, as my social media are flooded with that Burberry bag scene discussion. So, long story short, Aidan is rich, and maybe that's why Carrie wanted him back. Who knows? Anyway, they get back together, they seem happy, things are working out for them, until Mr. Big calls Carrie unexpectedly. This was the moment when I noticed how big of a communication problem Carrie and Aidan have. It's not as bad as it was with Carrie and Mr. Big, but still, it's not great. In essence, both Carrie and Aidan keep suppressing their feelings of anger, resentment, fear, anything negative really, until they eventually explode, often in response to very small triggers. The famous just shut up fight, which might be the most realistic scene in the entire show, gets triggered by chewed up shoes. Similarly, Carrie lashes out at Aidan after spending an entire episode deeply resenting his cabin. And the same situation happens after Big calls. They don't talk about their feelings. Aidan lies that he's going out with the guys. Carrie decides to surprise him, and boom, there are no guys, just Aidan and Shayna, the hot barmaid he flirts with. And to my Gossip Girl crossover fans, yes, this is the season where Miranda sleeps with Bart Bass for the first time, but did you notice who plays Shayna? It's the same actress who, in Gossip Girl, plays Alison Humphrey, Jenny and Dan's mom, and it's so believable that Alison would take a couple of shifts at a bar here and there because maybe her art is not selling that well. Brilliant casting. And just to close this silly crossover digression, did you know that Charlotte York McDougall and the Waldorfs have the same china set? Subscribe for more groundbreaking observations like this one. But back to Carrie and Aidan. I truly love those mid-season episodes when they live together, wear matching underwear, and have their domestic arguments. Like when Carrie's computer crashes and Aidan is like, "Don't worry, sweetheart, I'm gonna fix it in no time," even though he has absolutely no idea what he's doing, but he just has to show his masculinity, and he makes everything worse. It's painfully realistic. And then they go to this laptop tech support place, and this is when we get that iconic scene of Carrie and her laptop wrapped in a pashmina. It's probably the pashmina she got as a gift from Susan Sharon. It's so extra, even for Carrie. And then Aidan again tries to be the man, and so he explains everything to this worker instead of letting Carrie talk as it's her laptop.
That only works on PCs. Your PC user? Yeah, you're not compatible.
Bombastic side-eye. Carrie is actually a queen of side-eyes in this season, I've noticed. The one thing I can't wrap my head around is why Carrie intends on staying friends with Mr. Big after everything they've been through. Obviously, it's great to see a different side of Big. It turns out that this guy has a heart.
She can reach me, but I can't get her. Ever.
So far in the show, we've only seen him being cold, aloof, and emotionally unavailable. So it's fascinating to see him being neurotic and literally on the verge of a mental breakdown because of this actress he's dating. And did you know that, allegedly, Willow Summers' character and that entire storyline was inspired by Chris Noth's relationship with Winona Ryder? But yeah, I don't understand why Carrie wants to be friends with him, especially when it's painful and I guess uncomfortable for her to listen to him talk about his relationships. Maybe she tries really hard to be this imaginary cool ex-girlfriend. You know, like the cool girl monologue, but for ex-girlfriends.
Cool girl is game. Cool girl is fun. Cool girl never gets angry at her man.
Cool ex-girlfriend stays friends with her ex. Cool ex-girlfriend never gets jealous of her ex's new flame and politely listens about their sex life. Sorry, I've tried my best. And then Big shows up at Aidan's cabin, which was very selfish of him, and I completely understand why these two men ended up in a mud wrestle. I do not condone physical violence, but I do understand.
And the thing is, see, she could reach me, but I could never get her.
Let's move on to Carrie and Aidan's engagement. Aidan proposes to Carrie shortly after they discussed him buying her apartment since, as we've established, he's rich and she didn't have that much money. I feel like getting married in this situation feels natural and logical. It might not be the most romantic decision, but most certainly it's a practical decision. Right? However, Aidan didn't even try to forgive Carrie for previously cheating on him with Big. I don't think she regained his trust at all. There were many moments when he was kind of like testing her, and so him proposing feels extremely icky. It's like he's secretly saying, I need to marry you so that I can be sure you won't sleep with Big ever again. That's dark, and he basically admits that.
Carrie, I want the whole wide world to know that you're mine.
Who else's would I be? Oh my god.
In previous videos, I said I'm an Aidan stan, and yeah, I've changed my mind. He's the worst. And so, Carrie and Aidan break up their engagement and their relationship. Aidan moves out from Carrie's place to the apartment next door, I'm assuming, since he sold his old place. I love that it was never explained what happened to that second apartment. It also feels like a wasted opportunity for a comedic episode when they just live next door, have neighbor disputes over Pete barking and clouds of cigarette smoke coming from Carrie's apartment. However, since Aidan is the owner of Carrie's apartment, he's evicting her if she won't come up with the money to buy the apartment back from him. Now, from what I gathered online, this episode is considered to be one of the most enraging SATC episodes ever for many fans. I, however, happen to love it, and it's not just because of Carrie's comedic lines.
I spent $40,000 on shoes and I have no place to live?
To me, this episode feels weirdly raw and real. Look, Carrie started this season celebrating her 35th birthday. We live in a society where we are expected to hit certain milestones by the age of 30-35. Be married, have kids, pay off mortgage, all that jazz. But at this point in the show, Carrie is 35. Single and without a shelter, whereas her besties are way further along than she is. Miranda has a stable job as a corporate lawyer. She bought her apartment in season 2 and is now expecting a baby. Samantha flourishes in her PR firm. She literally works for celebrities like Lucy Liu. She owns her meatpacking district loft and is in a monogamous relationship with Richard. Charlotte is jobless and she's getting a divorce, but at least she gets to keep that gorgeous Park Avenue apartment. And here's the thing, from what I read over the years, the idea was to show that Carrie faces possible eviction simply because she listened to her heart, whereas Charlotte didn't. Carrie realized that it would be wrong to marry Aidan, that she would probably always have to worry about him trusting her, etc. While Charlotte went on with the wedding with Trey, despite the fact she knew something was wrong. And so when Carrie bullies Charlotte for not offering the money, she secretly says, "Girl, check your privilege. The only reason why you are not in the same situation as I am is because you married rich. What if you fell in love with someone less wealthy?" I hope that a lot of you now have that, I get it now moment, but I think that when you have to explain the scene, it means that the writers didn't do the best job. It literally feels like listening to that and just like that podcast where the writers explain everything so clearly and you get the sense of their vision, and then you watch the show and you're like, oh my god, this is awful. Similar situation here. So I know that Carrie acts like a lunatic, but it wasn't a good faith, I guess, because the acting is great. It's just the script. When it comes to Carrie's fashion style in this season, I can easily identify her three main themes / fashion eras. Starting with number 1, the equestrian Carrie. This one is a little bit random, yet it feels like a natural progression from Carrie's obsession with the Dior saddlebags in season 3. By season 4, however, Carrie is fully in her horse girl era. She is layering those Lizzie Shag diamond horseshoe necklaces like there is no tomorrow, and she's all about that Chloe by Stella McCartney Spring 2001 collection. And the only thing this outfit is missing is a pair of tabby boots. That would be iconic. Theme number 2 is Carrie as a Prada girly. I really wish we got a scene where Margaret Shaw tells Carrie that not only Dolce & Gabbana picked her as a model for their show, but also Prada decided to send their entire Spring 2001 collection, because when I tell you that Carrie wears a hell of a lot Prada outfits this season, I really mean it. No matter if she's turning 35 or she gets drunk at Vogue, she's always dressed in Prada. And I love her for it. And finally, the last theme is Carrie and random accessories like the newsboy hats and arm scarves. This one is pretty self-explanatory. Yeah, not my style. And that will be it for today's video. Again, this is just part 1 of my SATC season 4 analysis. My voice is absolutely gone, so I'm gonna make myself a tea and rest, and I'll see you soon.